Hi, welcome to Women in Midlife. I'm Karen. Thank you for coming to my channel where we are going to talk about anything and everything that pertains to women over 50s. So stick around and we'll be back. Hi, everybody. This is Karen here from Women in Midlife. As you can see, I have a special guest. Her name is Alice Ho. Hi, Alice. How are you?
Hi, Karen. Hi, everybody. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Very looking forward to have you on our channel. And let me introduce everybody to Alice. She is Singaporean who is actually now living in Amsterdam. So she had to reinvent herself in a very short time because of love and the
Mm.
challenges. Maybe I'll let Alice tell a little bit about herself. Go on, Alice.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm very happy.
Mm.
And just a slight correction. I am in the Netherlands, but I don't live in Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
But that's normal. My friend keep assuming that because indeed I first moved to the Amsterdam about 6.5 years ago. I went over due to a job posting. I was working for a Dutch company in Singapore for almost 5 years before they sent me over. And Amsterdam indeed was my first stop because it was where the headquarters is. Um, However, shortly after being posted there, there was a restructuring within the company, and my job together with my team were made redundant.
Oh.
Life was pretty interesting because although I lost my job, later did I know that shortly after I arrived in the Netherlands, I met my husband. Obviously, he was just a Dutch guy, and we. Long story short, we fell in love, but we do not know what we should do because I lost my job and technically my visa, my work permit will be gone and I have to move back to Singapore. That's when we discussed and decided that instead of two persons being jobless in Singapore, I decided that I do want to try it out, give myself a stretch goal and see if I can make it in the Netherlands. And that explained why. And subsequently, we got married, obviously, and therefore I continue to stay here.
Very good, very good. Interesting. So I wanted to talk to you because we connected not too long ago, and that you had the experience of being a caregiver to your elderly parents, and then now you are not, and you actually I want the perspective between a caregiver and a non-caregiver. Before we start, maybe give us a little bit of background, because the family background helps people to understand how we think as well. Yeah.
Sure,
Mm.
sure. So I'm the youngest in my family, and prior to the move to the Netherlands, I practically was the only one doing most of the caregiving.
Okay.
It is weird because some people, I think in Asian society, they like to think that, oh, but you are the youngest, so you're the baby. Actually, I am the youngest, but I'm not the baby in my family. It's different. Since young, I has been brought up by my mom with strict upbringing. So, and she's very traditional, which means the boys in the family do the least. So the girls have to do all the housework. But my sister is a bit more rebellious. So since young, she doesn't listen to my mom. So she will push out all those work. Maybe that therefore makes my mom more strict with me. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to do the housework. I have to help even clean my brother's shoes, paint the shoes white. That was the era.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, and however, as I grow older, when I started to have a job myself, whenever my parents fell sick, I also so-called became the default one to take care of them. What does that mean? It means there are two examples. So, since young, I have been doing housework, etc., as I mentioned. So, therefore, when my mom fell sick and could not walk, she was bedridden for a period of time. I have to work and then come home and cook for the family.
Wow.
Of course, we have takeaway food, but she said it's not good and unhealthy to eat takeaway food all the time. So she made me cook for the family.
Right.
So she will be shouting out instructions from her bed and then learn how to cook in that sense. And then the second examples would be because she's sick, right, as I mentioned. So and I was the only sibling in the family that did relatively well in my career. So I'm the only one that owned a car. So in a way, it also kind of default that I will be the one driving them to and fro, either for hospital checkup or TCM treatment. So in my mom case, it's like 3 times a week she has to go to the TCM for acupuncture, even if it's 8 p.m. and then you have to wait for because there's so many patients, you have to wait until 10 p.m. After work, I will be the one doing all this. So much so that over the years, and my job, I have always worked for global companies. So my bosses are all very kind and flexible. When I told them I have family issues, they allow me to, let's say, leave work early or work from home. So that concept for me has happened long ago. So indeed, I was, and because of that, I guess my siblings therefore said that, your boss is so flexible, you can do that, but they can't with their jobs. Their bosses are not flexible to let them take off as and when. Which also ended up, therefore, I'm the one who continued to do that. My job does require me to travel overseas sometimes for quite a period of time, or even overseas posting. Netherlands is not my first overseas posting. I used to work in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Dublin for 3 months. So during those period of time, obviously my siblings will have to take over. But to be honest, those were the younger days where my parents are very, very healthy. So there's not much caregiving needed.
Correct.
It really happened just before I need to move to the Netherlands. Then, of course, they get older. Yeah. It's very difficult, to be honest, because with so much time on the caregiving, I still remember there was an incident where my father was hospitalized. Thankfully, not for very serious thing, but he still need to be in the hospital for a period of time.
Right.
And during that period of time, again, because of my job was flexible, my siblings said you have to spend time with dad. He doesn't want to be alone, and we want to catch the doctor every morning when he do his rounds so that we can ask him what happened and what can be done and all that. So I was the one practically every day in the hospital. And I remember that I have to then transfer most of my work to my team.
Right.
And to be honest, I did feel less useful in the company, and someone then becomes so much more better in the job, and my job itself is at risk being taken
Of
over by
course.
someone. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
So yes. It was difficult. Yeah.
May I ask, during that time, right, when you were the caregiver, did you feel a level of stress because you are trying to be the filial daughter, trying to be the one to care for them, at the same time knowing how you want to perform your best for the company? I cannot imagine your stress levels at that time in life. Just give me briefly what was your train of thought. How were you like physically? What was that like for you during that period?
During that period, obviously it was very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact that when your loved ones, and in this case your parents, whenever the loved one is sick, it really bothered me the whole day. So I remember crying in the office twice in my whole career life of 23 years. The first time I cried was when my favorite aunt passed away. So when I heard the news, of course, I cried. I still remember that. The second time I cried in the office is many, many, many years later, with this Dutch company that I was working for already in Singapore, was because of my father's being hospitalized and and you are like you say, you are worried, and then you are stressed, and then there's work. So I just broke down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and because I remembered my mom calling me while I was at work, so I have to then put everything down and rush to the hospital.
Yeah.
So that was so indeed that's very stressed, and during that moment I could not really think of work because
Yeah,
you
of
are
course.
continuing with
Yeah.
So, but I mentioned earlier, luckily it was not too bad, but still was not clear about his situation. That's why he has to stay in the hospital for a period of time and catch the doctors every morning to make sure that we can ask him more things. Became kind of my default job. So
Right.
Tan Tock Seng Hospital became like my
Second home.
everyday. Yeah. So the stress came from indeed not being able to do my job already.
Of course.
Although my team is pretty self-run, they can do the job very well on their own. But that's also where then I felt my own job was being threatened. So I don't say it because I'm an old-fashioned manager that I cannot let go and then not able to delegate. Not at all, because everyone has their responsibilities. But imagine when you are the customer facing, you are the senior management facing person. Suddenly you are not, and someone raised to the occasion to become the face to the customers, but also become the face to the senior management, and people know him more than knowing me.
Of course,
So
it's threatening.
So the question become from the company is, therefore, then why do we need Alice? So that's where I start to really feel of course worried. After taking care of my father, I can't remember, maybe 2-3 weeks or nearly a month, and then things like that happen. Of course, that's when I start to worry about my job, because my family, besides needing me to be physically there with them, they also need my financial contribution. So if I lose the job, then it can also be additional stress, which is why you are right. I can't remember how I went through it, but it just come.
It does happen. And I wonder, during that time, did you talk to your siblings and say, hey, can you help me, can we chip in so that I don't have this? Because one of the reasons is also because you come from a typical traditional Chinese family, and talking is never a good, it doesn't happen. I don't know about you, but my family, with my sisters, yes, but with parents it's very difficult to talk. It's a one-way street. And and so did you have that conversation with your sibling?
Well, when crisis strike, the three of us did have a talk. But I was still the only one that's earning more money within the three of us. So kind of we discussed about how we will split the cost, but it is not something that they can give immediately.
Right.
So and also, like you say, we are siblings, and when your parents fell sick, the number one concern is just to make sure they are well and whatever treatment or whatever thing they need. I didn't kind of think too much and just be the one to give first. There are conversations like, okay, how we should split. I owe you this, how much? I owe you that, how much? But to be honest, it's verbal. I never track. I don't open a spreadsheet and then start. I tried, but I lost track actually after that because it's so hard, right? I mean, how are you going to list everything down? And you are right. My family indeed is very traditional, still is. We don't openly talk about things like that. Now that I'm away, I also feel that as my parents grow older, sometimes I am the one that bring up the difficult topic, the taboo topic of what to do if they pass on and things like that. So I decided that fine, even if I am being seen as the naughty or bad daughter or whatever, someone has to bring up such topic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Among the three siblings, I'm the one that will bring up such topic. And yes, for now that I'm away, my sister took over my role, and she's the eldest, so she became the one that actually cares for both my parents. I have to say, thankfully, she's there because although I think I did a lot last time, sure, if you add up the years, I did do a lot of caregiving, but I was also lucky in the sense that my parents were not that old then. They are now, my father is nearly 90 now, and my mom is 85 or 86 this year. So
It's a
it is
harder
actually
journey.
it's extremely stressful for my sister, who is single. Therefore, she can do that, but that also takes up her time and energy and her focus. She has her own work, her own company. So it's so to answer your question, right? Things therefore kind of change in the sense that now that I'm not the physical caregiver there, I can only contribute through money. So if they come back and say, and yes, we do split the cost. So if they say, okay, today's hospital checkup equal to blah blah blah, and then we'll split the cost. Or we need to now or whatever TCM package has expired, we need to renew package, whatever, then I don't question. So whatever I see, and then I just transfer the money over. But I don't stop caring for my parents, for example, because I separately still give my mom some allowance. Even though it's getting harder because I'm not earning a regular income anymore. I explained to her, therefore the amount has gotten smaller and smaller. But I myself feel I want to do something. I think it's about being so far away from them now that sometimes I feel guilty. And therefore little actions like this, if can make me feel better, I just give. Until of course, if I can no longer feed myself, then of course I can't, but I feel if I can, then I still continue to do that. Because I felt guilty for not being around them when they are now so old.
I think Alice, being very similar because I have to care for my elderly parents as well, is I have learned to try not to be guilty because we are also human. We also have lives, meaning like for me, I have my children, I have my own nuclear family besides them. I love them, but I remember one time when you said to me that when you had to the thought of leaving Singapore, you felt very guilty. and it took a toll because you were thinking, how am I going to cope and things like that. And
Yeah.
sometimes the parents, they will know at some point, they will know, and that they wouldn't want you to not spread your wings as well,
True. True.
and I feel that I felt very guilty trying to, especially when COVID lifted and I needed to spend a lot of time with my children. And I said, I got to go. I haven't seen them for 2.5 years. I got to go. And I left them here. But it was worry because every day you wonder if something could have happened. Nobody is
Yeah.
around to help them. But I have
Yeah.
to share with you one advice that a good friend said to me. She said,
Mm-hmm.
would you would would you have prevented anything from happening, even if you were next to them?
Mm. Yeah, I know, but I think the feeling that at least you are right next to them when it happened is still better than when you are not
Yeah,
there.
but that's psychological as well. Yeah, but the thing
Yeah.
is, actually, if they were to fall or get sick, even if they're next to you, it wouldn't have changed anything per
True.
se. So when
Yeah.
she questioned me that, and then I felt like, yeah, I mean, if that time is there, there's nothing we can do per se.
True. True.
And I think that sometimes we women carry all that guilt, and it's terrible. It's a terrible thing because it's very heavy on us, the heaviness on our shoulder and our hearts, and um and then with the siblings, because there's a lot of frustration between the
Mm.
caregiver and the one who's, I'll call them the non-caregivers,
Mm.
that sometimes it is very important to actually bring a conversation and say, look, I can't handle this anymore. I need you all to step in and help me
Mm.
for a little while, because they have to understand the stress that is being carried around by the caregiver.
True.
Yeah.
Yes, you are right. So that's why I send links and articles to my sister, because in Singapore, the government actually acknowledge this
Mm.
due to the aging population that
Yeah.
Singapore is facing now. And they therefore have special free classes for caregivers.
Oh, wow.
In yeah, so to kind of teach them how to take some time off for themselves and how to manage and etc.
Right.
Yeah, so I sent when I got to know about it through another friend of mine who is also a caregiver. She told me all this, and I always forward to my family chat group. But my sister never attend.
Oh.
She she felt that firstly she felt that she's too busy to even attend things like that, and even if she has time, she rather spend it on her business
Mm.
because of all the time she lost while taking care and having to be at home with my parents, right?
Mm.
But luckily, so far, yeah, I mean, she does take time off, and ask my brother to take over. My brother himself has his own nuclear family, which is also why it's difficult sometimes for him to do the kind of work that my sister can do, being single
Yeah.
and being there for parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but I do feel you are right. It's hard to get rid of that guilty feeling. So when I do make a trip home to Singapore, because of the fact that I feel guilty, I will indeed try to relieve my sister.
Oh.
So my sister, of course, also make use of the fact that I'm there. So instead of her bringing my father for his regular hospital checkup, for example, if I'm there, then she will say, "Why
You
don't
do
you bring that?"
it.
Or that I'm home so that she can then be out,
Yeah.
which I understand. But it is difficult because when I'm home, it's always only a limited of time, and I do also, and I don't, and I try to meet friends, but it's also because I need to also meet up with my business network, for example.
Right.
So it has become something that is difficult. I feel that I like to also bring up in this conversation today is that people think, for people living overseas means equal good life.
Yes.
Uh, yeah.
Yes. Not true.
Then if you are, exactly, and then if you are back to Singapore means equal holiday. So it's really not like that. Yeah. So going back home means I have new set of home duties, right? So and we don't have a helper anymore because the helper decided to stop, and that was just before COVID. So with COVID, you cannot hire. Even though now it's okay, but the prices shoot up like crazy.
Yeah.
So and my sister and actually not only the price. To be honest, the second question, the problem is also my mom cannot get along with any of the helpers.
Oh, same problem.
So
yeah.
so my sister said it actually gave her more stress.
Yes.
Because with a helper, she can finally not be at home. But then the helper is at home with my family, and my mother has big fights and etc. So it's to her, it's actually more stressful having to then manage. So she told us she rather not have helpers. So which is why when I'm back, I have to be the person, right? To
Right.
clean, to cook, to
Yeah.
take care of parents, so that I can relieve my sister.
Of course.
Although some days I told her I really can't, I have meetings or whatsoever, then she will take over and do what she used to do every day now. So no, it's not true that therefore coming home equals to holiday.
Yeah.
And living overseas, people that can be another topic, of course, not
Yeah.
for today, but people forget that living overseas, especially to a place where the culture is very different, language is different, the people even look different, right, from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
In fact, psychology said that in a man's life, there are, I think, 4 or 5 key challenges in a human life. One of them is the death of a loved one. One of them is moving country.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, so it's really it's not like Singapore, then you move to Malaysia. Of course, it's nothing, right? I mean, even that is already difficult for Malaysians who are away from their loved ones during the MCO lockdown.
Correct.
So even that city is already a challenge. Can you imagine? I'm more than 10,000 kilometers away with time zone difference.
Right.
Yeah, so my mom is not good with technology. I try to WhatsApp video call. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah. Or they'll put it next to their ear. Hello.
But she still say, "Why are you so soft?" But I'm already shouting, if I'm outside. But it's because she didn't know how to press the volume button.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be very difficult to be away from your loved ones when they get older.
Yeah. I think you have done a very good job. You are a wonderful daughter to have done whatever you do, and don't be guilty to live your life, because you need to live your life. And I'm saying it to myself as well, to be honest, and just say, because at the end of the day, I do tell myself that I'm just doing I'm going to do whatever I can, but I'm also human, and there's a level where I can't anymore, and I'm not going to be guilty or feel guilty about it, because there are moments that I feel like killing them because they would not listen, or they will not cooperate with whatever that I may suggest. And but then they are our one and only parents, so we have to do what we have to do. And I just want little advice to you, Alice, is that one of the things that you should look at with your siblings when you go back is look at power of attorney for your parents, because that is very, very important. The scenario is mainly okay, if they are very wealthy, there's always a financial issue with that. So you need to clarify that. If they are maybe bedridden and unable to voice themselves, somebody has to advocate for them. And I mean, I can only speak for myself that if I am bedridden and my whole function is down, I would
Yeah.
actually tell my daughters, please do not resuscitate. There's no point. There's no
Yeah.
life in me anymore. I do not want that life.
Yeah.
So, because the doctor's role is always to keep you alive, even if it's with the machines, and
Yeah.
something that you may need to talk to your parents and say, look, we need this document so that because someone has to speak for them and say, okay, it's time to let go.
Mm.
And because I know of friends who have their parents bedridden for almost 12 years,
Wow.
and that is not only painful, it's expensive. it,
Yeah.
you just have a body but there's nothing else there. So
True.
um, look into that when you get back. It's just a simple document that lawyers can
Sure.
draw up very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So it's
Thank you.
yeah,
I yeah, I will discuss with my siblings. I'll think about it. But I think my parents' situation is really different. So I already made them do the unpopular. I'm already the unpopular daughter that make them write their will, even if it's very little.
yeah,
But I wanted to. I make them do it not because of like I said,
yeah.
actually my parents really have nothing. But there were certain things that some decisions that they have made when they were very young that hasn't been changed over the years.
Mm,
So I kind of reminded them that your life doesn't only have one son. You still have this daughter who has been there taking care, and that I meant my sister.
right.
So I say she's single, right? When you are gone, she's single. So you also need to be fair to her. So you are right. So for things like this, thankfully my parents listened to me. So we did that
Okay.
in one of my trip back
Right.
already.
Yeah.
But I can understand what you mean because my sister is the one that faced them day to day,
Mm.
and my sister herself has hot temper. So when I call my mom always complain how my sister always yell at her. But my sister will then complain on the chat group of how she cannot. My parents is really driving her crazy because they're so stubborn or one
Yeah.
way track.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know what you mean
It,
when you said about how you lost patience with your parents.
yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate your advice. Definitely, I do. I will look into that because I feel that for my parents, because they are already so old,
Mm.
and I'm not saying that the hospital or the doctors are doing it, but it is an untold secret, right? That we all know when they are so old, usually they don't encourage keeping it.
No,
Uh,
but it's the there's a regulation. If I'm not wrong, I'm just saying from
exactly. Yeah.
where they will have to let's say if they went into a cardiac arrest, they have to keep pumping and keep them alive. That's their duty. That's absolute duty.
Okay.
Unless
Okay.
somebody signs off and say no, if that let
Uh,
him pass on peacefully,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is because that is the doctor's
Yeah. No,
duty.
no, I understand. Therefore, but that's why thank you for bringing this up. I'll look into that because I do think in Singapore, for them being so old, therefore the decision maker can be the children, and maybe in this case it might be my brother. I do not know how Singapore maybe indeed still follow the male or my sister being the eldest, but I'll look into that. It's a good reminder. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
just look into it because it costs you
Uh,
nothing, and if they are still in very sound mind, they can actually tell the lawyer what they want, and then that
True.
is very clear, and then your siblings and yourself are able to basically you're just following their instructions. You're not asking
Yeah.
anything different. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a difficult topic to bring up though, because
yes,
old people do not like this kind of conversation.
true,
They
true.
very superstitious, my parents.
Yeah, was surprised that I could talk to my parents about this. They were very open. So I was surprised. I thought, oh, I was preparing for a big brouhaha and everything, but they were okay. They were okay, and they understood. Then I invited
Mm-hmm.
my lawyer friend to come, who was lovely, and sat down with him and held his hand. Okay, uncle, this is how we do this. If you just have to tell me what is it that you want and all that, and we just make sure that we follow the whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want. So it was done very nicely, and within an hour plus, and then the papers were drawn up. So it's just to make them understand that I don't think your parents, like my parents, will want to be dragging on and cause us
Yeah.
problem as well. So
Yeah.
they know
No.
that. They know that. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
They know that. I know my mom always say that it's just that, like you say, it's not in a legal document.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm so glad to connect with you and to talk to this, because I just want, especially when we are at this age where we are the sandwich generation, and it's
Yeah.
just to let women know, because I learned this POA situation through two or three friends who went through, and they were heartbroken because it's just very difficult to disconnect, and the person is just bodily
Yeah.
there but nothing else, you see.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those are the things, and also looking at, if you are in the hospital for 12 years or a care nursing home, that's a lot of time and money going to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is something to consider.
Yeah. 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 True. True.
Yeah.
True.
We'll have
Yeah.
more chats again, Alice. And
Yes.
thank you
Yes.
so much. And I hope to see you real soon.
Thank you so much for having me today. And hopefully my sharing can give people a different perspective of a caregiver. Although I'm not there physically, I have never stopped thinking I'm not a caregiver, to be honest, because the virtual support, the emotional support that I still give remotely,
Mm-hmm.
and the financial support, I still feel I am doing my part. So it's not like I wash my hands off now that I move overseas and married overseas. Therefore, the Chinese like to say, "Oh, your in-laws, your 娘家 side is no longer because married daughter means the water that's been splashed out." Actually, not true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.